There are plenty of famous criminals in history, but few are as mysterious as DB Cooper, and if you've never heard his name before, then prepare to have your mind blown over the next few minutes. We'll be going over everything that we know about this criminal who successfully hijacked an airplane and then vanished into thin air. It all started on November 24, 1971, when a man by the name of Dan Cooper purchased a one-way ticket from Portland International Airport to Seattle. He was traveling alone, and he paid for the ticket in cash. His destination was said to be Mexico City. Cooper gave the flight attendant his boarding pass and took his seat. When the plane reached cruising altitude, he pulled out a briefcase and opened it to reveal a bomb. He informed the flight attendants and pilot that he wanted to speak with the captain. Once the captain arrived, Cooper told him that he had a bomb and demanded two parachutes and $200,000 in ransom money. He threatened to blow up the plane if his demands weren't met. After some negotiation, Cooper agreed to allow the 36 passengers on board to disembark in exchange for the items he requested. This included for parachutes, two of which were for him, $200,000 in cash for additional life rafts and two sets of wings. The pilots agreed to these terms, and they landed the plane at the Seattle airport. Here, Cooper allowed the passengers to leave, but he informed the crew that he wasn't ready to disembark just yet. He asked the pilots to keep him updated on the progress of his ransom money being prepared, and they obliged. For the next hour or so, Cooper ordered the pilots to fly around the area while they waited for the money. But the FBI had set up a perimeter around the airport, so the pilots couldn't land. They ended up flying to Reno, Nevada instead, where Cooper got off the plane and disappeared into the crowd. The FBI would later learn that someone picked him up in a 1960s model Volkswagen Beetle after he left the plane. And that was the last confirmed sighting of DB Cooper. He was never seen again, and his body has never been found. Despite the fact that decades have passed since he vanished into thin air, there are still many people who believe that he is out there somewhere. Now, before we go any further, we want to let you know that this is a true crime video based on actual events. However, some details surrounding the case of DB Cooper are shrouded in mystery, and there are conflicting reports as to what really happened. In order to get to the bottom of this, we will be sharing several different theories about the case. Keep in mind that none of these theories have been proven, and this is why the case remains unsolved to this day. With that said, let's jump right in. Cooper is believed to have stolen between $200,000 and $400,000 from Northwest Orient Airlines, where he spent the rest of his life living under a false identity. There's some evidence to support this theory, including the fact that Cooper was never seen again. It's unlikely that someone could have hijacked a plane, received such a large sum of money, and then simply vanished without a trace unless they were dead. Also, there was no evidence of foul play, and Cooper wasn't known to be suicidal. It is therefore possible that he did indeed survive the incident and spent the rest of his life living under a new identity. However, some people believe that Cooper didn't actually intend to survive the skyjacking. Instead, he planned to die in the process. If this is true, then why would he have demanded the parachutes? There are several possible explanations. Perhaps Cooper wanted to ensure that he would be comfortable during his final moments. After all, he specifically requested two parachutes, one for himself and one for a companion who was supposedly waiting for him in Mexico. Or maybe he simply wanted to make sure that he had a chance of survival. According to some sources, Cooper had a history of gambling, which suggests that he may have been desperate for money and willing to risk his life in order to obtain it. Another theory is that Cooper didn't actually have a companion waiting for him in Mexico. Instead, he intended to use the money to start a new life somewhere far away from the authorities. This theory is supported by the fact that Cooper had no criminal record prior to the skyjacking. He was gainfully employed and had a wife and kids waiting for him back home. So why would he suddenly decide to turn to a life of crime? Well, it's possible that Cooper was simply tired of living an ordinary life and wanted something more exciting. Or maybe he was desperate for money and saw skyjacking a plane as his only option. Whatever the reason, it seems clear that Cooper was willing to do whatever it took to get his hands on the ransom money. And while we may never know exactly what motivated him to do what he did, there are several factors that likely contributed to his decision. For example, Cooper was a veteran of the Korean War, which may have left him with some psychological scars. Additionally, He was a heavy smoker and had a history of lung problems, which may have given him a sense of mortality and urgency to do something crazy before time ran out. Furthermore, Cooper was known to be an avid outdoorsman and survivalist, which may have made him feel confident in his ability to survive the jump out of the plane. Finally, Cooper was described as being very charming and charismatic, which may have helped him to convince the flight attendants and pilots to do what he wanted. According to one of the leading theories, Cooper was killed in the jump and his body was never recovered. Because he landed in a remote area of the Columbia River Gorge, the FBI believes that Cooper jumped from the plane at an altitude of around 10,000 feet and that he had a limited window of time to deploy his parachute. It's possible that Cooper panicked and waited too long to jump, which resulted in a fatal fall. Additionally, Cooper may have been disoriented and ended up in a location where he ultimately perished. It is also possible that Cooper survived the initial jump but was unable to navigate the dense forest and rugged terrain of the Columbia River Gorge. He may have succumbed to hypothermia or dehydration, or he may have been injured during the jump and unable to get help. Additionally, animals could have scavenged his body, making it difficult or impossible to recover. Another possibility is that Cooper did manage to land safely in Mexico. However, he was killed by Mexican authorities who were trying to recover the ransom money. There is some evidence to support this theory, such as the fact that Cooper's body was never recovered. Additionally, there have been conflicting reports about whether or not Cooper actually had a companion waiting for him in Mexico. If Cooper was killed in Mexico, then his body may have been buried in an unmarked grave or lost in the sprawling urban areas of Mexico City. It is also possible that Cooper's body was never recovered because it was disposed of in a remote location outside of the city. The truth is, there are so many unanswered questions surrounding the case of D.B. Cooper, and his ultimate fate remains a mystery. That is until now, because we believe that Cooper's body may have been discovered years ago, but the discovery was never publicized. There are a lot of people out there who are still searching for answers in this case, and many believe that Cooper's body may still be out there somewhere waiting to be found. One person who is still searching for answers is the daughter of one of the pilots who was involved in the skyjacking. She has spent years trying to piece together what really happened to her father and the other passengers on board that day. Her research has led her to believe that Cooper may have survived the incident, and she is still searching for him. As we continue our investigation into the disappearance of D.B. Cooper, we will keep you updated on any new developments. In the meantime, we would like to hear your thoughts on the case. What do you think happened to Cooper? Let us know in the comments below. Thank you for watching. We hope you enjoyed this episode of Unsolved Mysteries. If you did, please be sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on future episodes. We look forward to seeing you next time.